better. And welcome. Welcome to this new academic season. Welcome to those who are new. We'll get back to you especially in just a minute. Welcome to those of you who are returning. Welcome to those who never really left throughout our year. I hope, though, that you found some time in the summer to at least take a breath. I'm not sure it's a really slower rhythm, but sometimes it can at least be a different rhythm, and that's great as well. It has been a great year. We're going to spend a little bit of time talking about those kind of things as well as then give you some I think, great information about what we're planning for the next year and what we'll do together. Back to the welcome. First of all, I hope that we have folks that are dialed in from our campuses, not on our main campus, from our distant campuses. So if so, welcome. We appreciate you being here as well. You're a very integral part of what we do and what we are. So thank you so much for that. Also, welcome to those who are truly new. And I do this, there's going to be some folks who need to stand up in terms of if you were did you not come to this last year, because hopefully everybody did and knew how great it was and came back. But if you were not here in terms of being at Augusta University last year and so are new, please stand up. All right. Thank you. So I had an opportunity to meet some of the great new faculty just last week. We have wonderful new staff joining us as well, integral to our mission. We also have some key leaders that have come on board. Rick Franza, who you saw over here as the Hall Dean. He doesn't really get to count as being new anymore, right? Because he came in February, but truly he was not here last year. Then more recently, we have Elna Green, who's joining us as the Pamplin Dean. And let's see, we also have, I think she's got a lock on the very newest member of our team, and that's Kathy Browder, who's 62 minutes on the job at this point. So thank you all for joining us, as well as everyone else. We also take a special time to recognize some very key leaders of our staff and of our faculty. So I especially want to recognize and thank the officers and all the senators and the members of both the Employee Advisory Committee as well as the University Senate. These are critical bodies for us in our shared governance mission. So if you are part of either of those in any capacity, please stand. Let us recognize you. Okay. Right. Thank you so much. It's a great time to both thank Kathy Tugman as the outgoing and now past chair. Does that have a good ring to it? Oh, I know, Kathy. As well as Wendy Turner, who's coming in as our chair. Thank you both for that great service and work together. All right. So those of you who know me at least a little bit know I probably don't do anything without talking a little bit about the values. I'm not going to give you my whole spiel, but I do think it's really important, to me at least, to ground all that we do in the university's core values, of which we have 6. I won't go through them all. You might be able to recite them about as well as I can in terms of my spiel, but I would encourage you to try to find each of those in yourself and in your interactions every day with each other. So, as we are fond of saying, we are a 5-year-old, almost, not even quite that, 5-year-old university with a 189-year history, and there aren't very many that can say that. And we cherish that legacy, we appreciate it deeply, and we move forward with all that we can be in the future. In 1783, and if Leanne is here, she will correct me on some of these dates, so we'll talk to her afterwards, but in 1783, the Academy of Richmond County was authorized to provide 1 year of what was then post-high school education, and there were some really important courses in that point. I think there were Greek and Latin and French and philosophy and some other things that would then prepare the students who graduated from there to go on into the upper level of university. In 1822, the Medical Society of Augusta began to look at how they could help meet the medical and health needs of the surrounding community. And from that was born the Medical Academy of Georgia. And of course, we know it today as the Medical College of Georgia and all the deep history that goes along with that. We have a lot of milestones all along the way. The 50th anniversary of the first baccalaureate graduation from Augusta College was last year. We just celebrated that 50-year mark. The dental school has been here now in existence for 50 years. And we are going into a celebratory year, a Diamond Jubilee year, for the College of Nursing that will be celebrating its 75th year. So there's so much to be proud of, to remember, but so much that's happening right now in real time and almost faster than we can keep up with. And so that's what really excites me as well. Build on the past, look for the future. So we have now, from that relatively modest beginning, we have more than 140 programs, if we count all in. We have a wide portfolio that we'll talk a little bit more about how we are growing and expanding that. And we have what was 9 colleges, but as of July 1st, we actually now have 10 colleges and schools with the establishment of the School of Computer and Cyber Sciences. This, as I know, unless you've just, dialed in from a 15-month coma or something, you realize that we do have this cyber tsunami approaching Augusta. I think it's just ready to crest, in fact. And we are on that cutting edge of that, running as fast and as furiously as we can, thanks to the good work of so many people. So very many people that are putting lots into that, and it's paying off tremendously. One of the real hallmarks, in addition to the establishment of the school, is that from an educational basis, just last week, we received word that our computer science bachelor's program has been ABET accredited. This was the first time that we had attempted that accreditation. I use that "we" very imperially because it was the hard work of the computer science folks, of Mark Thompson and Hall, and many others, that really made this great achievement happen. Mike Dowell was very instrumental in it, as well as Joanne Sexton, and just everybody there. So this is an awesome accomplishment. We have so many accreditations, and rightfully so. We really seek for any of our disciplines the accreditations that are appropriate, but this is a milestone that will allow us to progress in many ways with respect to our partnerships with the military, with the NSA, as well as to achieve greater prominence within the computer science field. So I think I want to give them a round of applause at least for doing that. Right. And then we have this little, building project that's going to be going on. In fact, the ground is already moving on our Riverfront campus, where truly the future does start. And that will be with the construction in a rapid cycle. We presumably will already be able to occupy that building by this time next year on the timeline that they are approaching for the Hall McKnight Georgia Center for Innovation and Training, Cyber Innovation and Training Center. I'll get the acronym right. And it will house the School of Computers and Cyber Sciences. So all that is truly wonderful. Part of this is about our vision. It's always about the vision and how we're moving forward as a university. And along with the values, I usually like to focus on the vision for our institution, and that is that Augusta University will be a top-tier university and a destination of choice for education, healthcare, discovery, innovation, and creativity. We are becoming that destination of choice. We've got a long ways to go in some areas, and in some ways, there's always a way to climb higher. But we are making significant inroads there. Some of the just bragging points that I would list here: top undergrad majors. You can see those that are drawing in record numbers students who say, I want to go there to do that. I think I'm interested in that, and they've got the programs. This is not meant to be exclusive. We have wonderful majors in so many fields, but these are just the ones that, again, are drawing the attention for now. Amongst those, we have a group that we have been watching very closely and that some of you have put much attention and input to, and that is our Professional Scholars Program. This is a program that truly can yield some distinctiveness, some halo effect that's much larger than just the number of students within this particular program or these programs as a set. And these are the programs that put students as entering freshmen on a track where they have already been conditionally accepted, but accepted if they meet the milestones, into one of the professional programs, the BSN program, or the DMD or MD program. We've been at it long enough that our first cohort of medicine and dental students actually matriculated just this past week into their freshman medicine and dental classes respectively, and they are wonderful. They're outstanding. To start with, they actually were retained and progressed at a much higher rate than many across the country, these similar programs that are fast track, where it's a 3+4 type of scenario. There's usually quite a bit of fall off, naturally so. Students decide they really don't want to do this after all, or somebody decides for them they maybe aren't going to quite make the grade that it will take. We've had extremely high numbers that have persisted, and when they are prepared in terms of having, for the medicine class, a higher than the average class GPA of the total entering class, and not only the GPA, but also the MCAT scores. Of this cohort of 20, have actually higher numbers than what the entire entering class. And you know, we don't admit anybody that's too much of a slacker into the medicine program, so they're all wonderful. So this speaks, I think, volumes for what we are and what we can do together. Likewise, the three dental students who matriculated, one of them was our current Miss Augusta, so she's got a lot going on, and wonderful students, well prepared. So thank you all for everybody who was involved in that. I know Rich Greiner and so many of the faculty in College of Math and Science, but really throughout their time here, really important. Also, just when you look at those highly selective programs or destinations of choice, you can see that we have fully 10 applications for every one for dental school, and probably about 12 and a half applications for medicine. So these continue to be the highly, highly selective programs, and certainly our destination of choice for those students who aspire to that. In terms of rankings, you're always chasing rankings. We like them when we're up high. We hate them and think they're, you know, completely invalid when we aren't where we think we should be. But nonetheless, they are a measure of external, at least, attention. And so some of those that we are proud of here are listed. We have continue to have wonderful nursing programs, some of the leading edge in that, as well as in allied health and the medical school ranking, which in this case is NIH funding. That is the mark that leads to the Blue Ridge rankings. And the person now who has been very instrumental in not only setting and maturing this vision, but actually making it happen, is going to talk to you a little bit next. It's my great pleasure. I think it was, in fact, I know, it was 2 years ago at the first annual fall kickoff, this being the third, that I had the pleasure of introducing our president, who had maybe been on campus 20 days or I don't know, something like that at that point, not long. And it was really his first time to get to address the faculty and staff in this manner. From that point on, I don't think he has really let up or stopped or looked back. We've been on a great trajectory, and so it is my pleasure to welcome, as I know it is yours, our president, Dr. Brooks Keel.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And let me just add my welcome as well. And there are 2 times in any university that if you can't get excited about it, you need to quit and go do something else. And that's the Convocation, which we'll have tomorrow, which is all the new freshmen get on campus, and the level of excitement is always palpable. And then there's commencement. And if you can't get excited about those 2 times, but it's just quit now, move on, we don't want you here. I mean, just what a great way to kick off the academic year, huh? Let me add my welcome to our new faculty especially, and we appreciate you coming to Augusta University. And let me tell you what I typically tell our new freshmen when they come here, and that is we know that you have a lot of choices. for your professional career, and you could go anywhere. You chose to come here, and we're going to do everything we can to make sure that 5 years, 10 years, 20 years down the road, you're going to look back on this day and say it's the greatest decision you ever made. I mean that sincerely. We depend on you to help us shape this university as we move forward. To our old faculty, wait a minute, that didn't sound quite right. To our more mature Jaguars that are coming back, let me also add to the Provost's welcome, say thank you so much for everything that you have done and continue to do for us. And we hope that you'll get a chance to know some of our newer faculty on campus and introduce them to some of the great things that we have here. As I was looking at Gretchen's opening slides, it occurred to me that I am not just a two-time graduate, I am a three-time graduate of this institution. Many of you probably know I was born here in Augusta. I graduated from Richmond Academy High School. Dean Carroll heard that was 1974, not 1774, but I did graduate from Richmond Academy, which was the true legacy institution for what we have here today. I graduated from Augusta College with my undergraduate degree and then went down the hill to get a PhD in reproductive endocrinology from MCG. So this is a truly personal experience for me. Although 2 years ago was the first time I had a chance to be on this side and speaking to this audience, it's not the first time I've been in this building. I was in this building as a student, so it's an incredible humbling experience to be able to come back home and to be president of 3 of your alma maters, not just 2. And I'm delighted to be here, so it's a personal decision for me. And I know for our new faculty, you will come to love this university as much as I do. And I know for some of our faculty who've been there for many, many years, that appreciation, that love that you have, not only for the institution, but for the students that you teach, will come across very well, and we thank you for that. There's going to be a lot of great things that are going to be happening over this next year. And some things we don't even know yet are going to happen. They're all going to be great. The provost has mentioned some of those already. She'll be mentioning more. We're going to see the opening of the Georgia Cyber Innovation and Training Center. This is going to shine a spotlight on this town, on this university, and on our community like nothing we've seen before. Many of you know the Army has decided to move the Cyber Command to Fort Gordon, which has been part of our community for decades. We'll have the only 3-star general command in the entire state, and it's going to be a tremendous opportunity for us to help train the workforce, educate the workforce in cybersecurity from a variety of areas. So that's coming on board, and like I say, the governor's put a firm deadline on us. We have the ribbon cutting set for July 10th next year. We had the ribbon cutting set before we broke ground. And you talk about optimism. Well, that's the path he put us on, and we're dedicated to do it. And now this new school that we have set up of computer and cyber sciences, I can't tell you how excited we are about that, to bring together our faculty into those areas and have a focal point, but also allow us to use that as a jumping point to bring in new faculty. I mean, we know we need to do that, and we are going to be doing that in a very aggressive way. For our colleagues in the College of Science and Mathematics, you probably know we received funding this past year for the actual planning and design for a new College of Science and Mathematics building, and that's going to allow us to move that building down to the Health Sciences campus. We're going to put those undergraduate students right in the middle of all the white coats. So our students who want to go into careers in science, in research, in medicine, dentistry, allied health, and nursing, we're going to put them right on that campus down there. It gives us a tremendous opportunity to develop programs to articulate those students into the clinics, into the research labs, into those programs that they aspire to be. This will make us the #1 destination campus for our students who want to go on in those careers. And we're excited about that. So you're going to see the planning for that building this year. And then if things go right, and we always remain optimistic, we hope to receive another $49.4 million in this next legislative cycle to give us the construction money to build that facility, and then the remainder will come the year after that, with hopefully having the doors open on that in 2020. Now that's a great way of bridging the distance, the short distance between the Somerville campus and the Health Sciences campus. Now, as you know, those 2 universities have now merged. And oh, by the way, if you've heard any rumors, we're not changing our name anymore. Okay, it is Augusta University from this point forward, and if anybody tells you any different, there'll be a new president standing here, I can assure you that. So spread the word, we're here to stay. What a great opportunity to bring those 2 together, and I encourage our faculty on the Somerville campus, go down to the Health Sciences campus, get to know your colleagues on that campus, Talk about how you can come together in terms of scholarship and teaching and all the wonderful things that you can do together. For our colleagues on the Health Sciences campus, also, please come up to this campus. Get to know your colleagues. Come and look at the outstanding art programs we have, music programs we have, all the wonderful things that our undergraduate campus has to offer here. The collaboration opportunities are tremendous. Let me give you one example, and I love to give this example. The new faculty probably already heard me say this. We just stood up at the provost's suggestion, an opera institute. And what a wonderful opportunity for collaboration. Obviously it involves music, of course. It kind of makes great sense. But it's not just our Department of Music. It's a collaboration between our Department of Music, kinesiology, and otolaryngology. For our non-medical folks, that's ear, nose, and throat. Now you talk about two completely different disciplines coming together to celebrate the human voice from an artistic point of view, but also from a health and maintenance point of view. That's the kind of collaborations I think we can do here at this university. We have a blank slate of what a Research One university is supposed to look like. As the provost said, we're only 5 years old. We have no preconceived notions about what we're supposed to be and what we can be. That's up to you. Now, how many times in your career have you really had an opportunity to shape the course, the future for an entire university? And you all have that. I'm excited to have you here, and I can't wait to see what you're going to come up with to help us move in that direction. We're not just a university for Augusta, and that's one of the concepts about us being a destination, a university that the provost is going to talk some more to you about. Augusta University used to be just Augusta. Not anymore. We are spreading across the entire state. The entire state of Georgia is our campus, and our medical school is a great example of that. You may not know this, but in addition to our campus here, we have branch campuses in Savannah, Brunswick, Albany, and Rome. We have a 4-year partnership campus in Athens. We have nursing programs in Columbus. And we have over 2,000 clinical faculty across this state that help train our medical students. And the word of Augusta University, using the Medical College of Georgia as a platform for that, is spreading across the state. And the attitude about parents saying, well, I don't think I necessarily want to send my child to Augusta University to get their undergraduate degree. I want them to go to the University of Georgia. It's changing. And I can say that because I was a student here when it was Augusta College. I'm proud of that. It's done me pretty well. We've got to spread that word across the state that this is the destination campus for your undergraduate child to come to school. And you can help us do that. We spend a lot of time going across the entire state. Typically in the summer, I and my chief of staff and go across the state. We visit with legislators in their hometowns and take them to lunch in their local diners and just have a chance to speak to them and see what's on their minds. And thank them for the great support they've given us and put in a plug for some of the other things that we need. And you'd be amazed at the enthusiasm, the optimism that the entire state of Georgia has for us because they understand the importance of this university for this state and for this region. We can't do that without you because you are this university. So thank you so much for choosing Augusta University as a place to carry out your career. Thank you for your passion of teaching, of research, creativity, and of service. Our students come here because of you, and we serve at your pleasure. So thank you so much for being here. Look forward to a great year, and go Jags! Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gill. All right. So, although he didn't say it this time, one of the favorite catchphrases of our president that I endorse heartily is that we have a single priority here at Augusta University, and that's our students and our patients. We're going to talk more about how we impact students today rather than patients, even though I know many of you actually do see patients as well and interact with them. So I want to talk a little bit about the focus on our students. And of course, we can't have a strong student support and a strong student success without great faculty and paying attention to what that is and what makes that work in our ecosystem. So we'll go on into some of that as well toward the end, what we're doing together. You have this academic profile as a takeaway. It's double-sided, so we were wanting something that you hopefully will be able to put up on your bulletin board, refer to. It has the dates to remember. We'll get to those after a bit at the closing, just to remind you. But I found that this sort of an infographic, it never has maybe everything that you wish you knew or could look toward, but it has a lot, and it's a great thing to be able to refer to across the year. It's also important to note that because this is a snapshot in time, it's always a bit of last year and current up to this point. And so it really is the 16-17 official data. For instance, the 8532 was the fall official census last fall. We kind of know and we're projecting, and we are certainly optimistic about what our fall census will be this year, but we don't have that yet. We don't know that yet. So some of these will seem fairly aged numbers by this point, and others we actually are up to the minute in terms of the number of academic programs, for instance, in terms of those 10 schools and colleges and so forth. But again, just to point out some of the things that are there, and we'll refer back to them as we go along to some extent. In order to have strong enrollment and to have great students and then our great graduates who become outstanding alums and citizens of our world, you have to have strong academic programs, and we have already 140 of them, make no mistake, but we want more. We need to continue to be very planful, to be very intentional about what makes sense for us. I don't know what that is. What makes sense for us, but it's not the canon, as a university. And so each year we put forward to the Board of Regents our plan for what we think is ready and appropriate for our university to pursue. This past year, what you see on the left-hand side is those that really were approved or will probably be, in the last instance, approved at the next board meeting. And so you can see that we had proposed and gotten approval for a BA in chemistry as a partner to our BS degree. Also a BS in Health Services, the Integrated Studies degree, which I think will be incredibly important for many of our students. The Master's in Intelligence and Security Studies, which is another one that I think will really resonate well with many prospective students. That one should be approved. It's not on the agenda officially yet, but should be in the next couple of months. And then finally, a dual degree program that I'm pretty sure probably had the longest gestation period of anything we've ever had, because our BS MS in mathematics and biostatistics is something that Sam Robinson and Varghese George and I, back when I was dean of the graduate school at the old MCG, actually tried to make work although those many years ago, and it just was a bridge too far in our two different, at that point, institutions to make that work, even though technically, theoretically, it should have. So I am especially heartened that this is one of those examples of what we can do and how we can make things happen for our students as one university. So on the proposed programs, and these don't mean they're actually approved yet, make no mistake, there's still lots of work in many cases because they're just at the formative stages, but we have selected, after lots of hard work by you, the faculty and the colleges and programs, that these are the ones that are queued up for this coming academic year, meaning that we hope to be able to actually put the final proposal in on your behalf sometime this academic year to the Board of Regents for consideration. And so you see there that it's a cluster of bachelor's degrees as well as moving into master's degrees in some of the areas that have not previously had graduate programs. So I think it's an awesome opportunity. Again, nothing's a done deal until they actually become approved. And along with that, we have a number of others that are just queuing up and are just, people kicking around ideas, thinking. We have so many great ideas. There are no bad ideas. They're just ones that maybe the time isn't quite right yet, or the resources aren't quite there, or the priorities aren't quite aligned. So we want to continue to develop those. One of them, for instance, that is not on this, but I think will be coming up soon that I'm excited about, is a Master in Design out of our Department of Art. I think there's tremendous capacity for that, opportunity. Some of the others I know that people have on their minds. So we would love to hear those and help you to promote those. So getting students in are also about priming that pump, getting the pipeline flowing, having students and parents and families know about us, know what we are here, and having a good experience so that they then feel comfortable at coming here, and also tell their friends and their colleagues about them. So some of the highlights of our student pipeline programs, these continue to grow each year. Won't go through every one of those, but we did last year have more than 100 high school students at one camp or another. We have great opportunities now. We also have great opportunities, more opportunities for residential camps than ever before because of our new residence halls and the opportunities that presents for us during summer. And so we're going to continue to grow those. The Health Sciences Summer Academy, Gen Cyber, continues to be really praised on every level. When the NSA folks come through to that visit specifically to evaluate every one of those programs across the country, and both our College of Education sponsored middle school teacher Gen Cyber Academy, as well as our pre-collegiate high school student camps were lauded. They said that they needed to really be the measure for everybody else, so we like that. It's a great accolade. Likewise, we have one of the oldest student educational enrichment programs in the country for pre-medicine and dental students. That's been going on for decades now and continues to be extremely strong and has a tremendous track record for success of those students in going on to their aspired profession. So in terms of where we are with enrollment, enrollment is always something at the first and foremost of our mind. So is quality. So is quality, not just of students, but of the education that we provide them, quality on all forms. But it is a fact of life that we do live also in a numbers world with respect to what our enrollment is and what that means both to us, to the USG, to the outward facing venues. So we track that obviously like a hawk, and here are some things that just taking a snapshot in time. I didn't put up bunches of graphs this year of kind of where we are and all, but rather I just wanted to show you comparing basically some would say maybe where we started. You could pick a different date perhaps, but what you'll see here is in fall of 2013, which was the first fall after our consolidation, we entered 730 new freshmen. It has continued to rise. The new freshmen have been actually quite strong and continuing each year. And so this fall, remember, they aren't matriculated really yet. They haven't persisted past the census date, so we don't really know exactly how many there will be. But as of this morning, there are actually 883 in our system that we have. This is due to the amazing work of so many in our recruitment admissions. It's the faculty, it's the staff in the colleges that turn out for our preview days, for our recruitment events, and all the great outreach that has made us come into people's minds, both afar, out of market, out of region, but also those who live, your next door neighbors and mine, beginning to say, you know, this is where I think my student should be. And this is where I want to be if I'm that student planning. You can see what's happened with our undergraduate and graduate applications. They've continued to rise, and you can tell there that we are on the up. So green arrow's up, it's a good thing. And I think we are only going to see more of that as we continue on our journey. In order for students to have success, first we have to get them in, and that's part of the enrollment piece, but also they need to be retained, they need to come back and actually persist, and they need to progress. They need to not just be freshmen, but become sophomores, become juniors, and so forth, and then finally graduate. And there's some great stories here to tell, and it is because of the work of, again, so many, most of you who have been here, like I have through this, know that this was a huge priority that we've done throughout. It's permeated almost every aspect of what we do in terms of trying to improve our student success measures. It is a journey. We have a ways to go still, but the indicators are strong. They're looking good. So we have a higher freshman retention rate. Again, we're looking at last year's data because we don't know what this year's data will be yet. It'll be a few weeks before we can actually log those in, but we anticipate that it will continue to rise, at least incrementally. Likewise, our progression year over year has really picked up tremendously. If you can see the gains we've made there in terms of going from low double digits into the mid-range in many cases. We want to get higher. That's not where we should be as a research university and one of the flagships really in the state particularly, but we're on a journey. We'll get there. One of the important things there and what we really like to focus on is that commitment, that campaign that we try to engage entering freshmen in to take 15 hours. You will not finish in 4 years if you don't take 15 hours a semester for 8 semesters. It is math, but still, it escapes a lot of folks with that. And so we've really been on that journey, and as you can see, the numbers there are dramatic in that the fall before consolidation and before really that was the mission, that was the intent. We had 8% that attempted a total of 15 credit hours their first fall semester, and 4%, or about half, of them actually earned it. Compared to now, and this is where it's kind of settled the last few years, has been about 85% attempt, and 60% of those, so in this case 52% of the total cohort, not 52% of the 84, but 52% of the total cohort of entering freshmen actually earned that. So this is a huge boon to those students because they're on track now to progress. They can become sophomores on track. They can not take on as much debt and be out of the job market in a prolonged way. And so we believe this is definitely on a great track for them. Should every student be full-time and take this load? Of course not. There are students, there are non-traditional students, there are students who are working full-time plus, there are other things, but many, many students can and should take a full load because this is their full-time job. And so thank you all for engaging in that with us and all the great work people are doing. Graduation is, kind of the ultimate indicator. We are still in a lagging phase with respect for it takes a long time to get to that 6-year graduation rate for a cohort that, started 6 years ago by definition. Likewise, the 4-year rate. It's not where we want it to be. It's bounced around still. It's been as high as 32, and then it's been down about in the high 20s. And so we've got work to do, but we believe we're on that journey again as we get the cohorts in the mindset more to continue to progress at a faster pace. And we do see some indications, some good indication of that with respect to the 4-year graduation rate. This was actually the first fall cohort of our university as a consolidated university. And you can see that it more than doubled, even though it's still tiny numbers. But many of these will go on and they will be in that 5- and 6-year graduation rate. So work to do still, but we are on it. Obviously, another thing that impacts tremendously a student's ability to be retained, to persist, and ultimately to graduate is whether they can afford to do so, whether they have to make a choice between paying their rent or paying their tuition, or whether they have food security and know where their food's going to come from that week. And so we always want to pay attention, especially to that. This gives you a snapshot of how our student aid has broken out. You'll see that, like pretty much any institution, the large proportion is loans. We would love for that to be a lower proportion. We would love for it not because we wish our students were richer, were more independently wealthy, but rather because we wish we had more aid that was not loan-based for them. We do not have a scholarship base that we would really like or that we probably should or could expect for a university of our caliber. And so we are reaching out and really actively always seeking opportunities, and thanks to our advancement unit and the good work of others to identify opportunities for more scholarships, for more grants, for more kinds of things. Our HOPE and our ZEL numbers, though, those students who are highly qualified and eligible for that meritorious award have gone up. Again this year, they have each year, and so that is great news because it means that we actually are attracting a student body that is more qualified by the standards that those measure. And so, again, lots of work still to do, but it's a good story, but it's a little bit sobering in the sense that we all need to work together to try to help solve the student debt issue, which can be huge. Another important part of a student experience is in the classroom and then all the other things, whether they're associated with a specific class or not, that really make their experience noteworthy and pull it all together for them in a way that equips them for their future. And we have so many individual initiatives that do just that. Students can take advantage of so many things, and I'm sure that this doesn't really capture any one of them. And the size of the circle is not about importance. It's not about size of number of students. It's just a graphic. So I don't want you to take that to that inference there. But really, as we look across these, some of them are programs that were in Augusta State University primarily beforehand, and we continue to grow and expand. Some are new initiatives. Some were actually inspired by our quality enhancement program that we needed to put in place for our SACS accreditations. But they all go to the benefit of students and experiential learning, doing high impact practices that have been found from a research basis to be so key to a learning experience for students. But they all kind of exist like this, it seems like. And while students may find their way, and we certainly try very hard to alert students to that fact, we really are trying to look for something that will tie these together as more of a program writ large, a constellation of programs under an umbrella that will then be a signature of Augusta University. And some faculty and some of the support folks that are so critical to it have really been pivotal this past year. Christina Heckman, Andy Hogger, Deborah Richardson, Kim Gray, I'm going to leave some other folks out, I apologize, really got together and said we need to try to pull this into something that not only is more evident for the students and their experience once they're here, but we can use it as a marketing, as we need to say that this is what we do and this is what we as Augusta University have as our special sauce, so to speak. So that it came out of what was initially called InStep. And so this is kind of what we're looking for, is to sort of bring it under one umbrella. That won't be the name, ultimately. Our DCM folks are working with that group in order to come up with a good tagline. This stood for the Initiative for Student Experiential Programs, which is not bad. But there's probably a little bit zippier thing that we can use, certainly from a marketing standpoint. So look forward to this in these coming next few months, honestly, to being able to roll this out and really be something that we can speak about in a singular fashion, but understanding all the myriad opportunities there are within that so many of you all are responsible for. It wouldn't happen without you. One of those things that we've talked about is the students' experience in research, and much of that takes place in investigators' labs, not all. There's some great research throughout any and all of our disciplines, but I want to switch gears for just a minute to give you a little bit of an update on where we are with respect to our research from the funding perspective, as well as recognize the great scholarship that goes on in other areas. So in terms of our rack and stack, we look at, how many journal articles, how many peer-reviewed articles in any discipline. And it's a little hard. The librarians do a great job, and the IE folks trying to rack and stack, but it is a little bit of a moving boundary. But we look at the faculty publications and scholarship this year in terms of the journal articles. It is a higher number than we got to last year, so that is something. It was about 980, I think, last year or something. There's a number of you that have produced big books of work, books and other types of things, in addition to just articles, which is really important and will be celebrated. I love the authors' celebration that the library does each year, and that'll be coming up soon. It's a great event to really celebrate and actually get to peruse some of the works that have been created. Patents you see there. Also, you can see the active contributors. We were talking about this in the sense of it being faculty research, but this involves a team, and so many of these are the next generation of those scholars, those researchers. And so you can see here some of the graduate students, the undergrad CURS students, both in the Summer Scholars Program. There are also those who do it throughout the year. And also we have a great cohort of postdoctoral fellows who are here for that next stage of their development maturation as professionals. If you look at the numbers, what you'll see over there, even though I don't have them again contrasted to last year, it was a good year, and I say that because honestly, any year you could stay the same in this climate for federal funding, for extramural funding from any source would be deemed a good year. But in fact, we actually increased our grant support by about 3.5%. And again, I think that's a really good thing. We always have some come and go of faculty, and so sometimes when there's a different opportunity that a faculty member chooses who is highly funded, that can leave, this gap for a bit, and then there's, it's a moving thing. So I was very happy that we could wind up with that. Likewise, our F&A costs, actually what we were actually drawing down from those funding agencies in order to support the infrastructure for the research that's being done increased. And we've got a huge number of grant submissions already out, some of which will bear fruit and add to that. So good things going on in research. We still have a heavy lift in terms of needing to grow and to become that truly comprehensive research university, but we're on track, and that's happening because of you all every day. So a little bit more now in terms of what's next. A couple of things that I just wanted to highlight that will be coming to a theater near you soon, as they say. You'll recall, those of you who are not truly new, that last spring we engaged rather hastily in the Great Colleges Survey, and this really grew out of our commitment to assess institution-wide employee engagement. This was faculty and staff. It was all employees of the university. And then to address the improvement opportunities that revealed themselves through existing integrated planning processes. The intent was never and is never to layer on yet another thing that people have to report out or put into some different thing or figure out how it should go, but to seamlessly integrate what we intend to do, and I don't mean that royally, I mean we, because it's everybody, what we intend to do to improve for those opportunities we see, and also to celebrate the things that we see as strengths. So many of you are familiar with the Great Colleges to Work For. It is endorsed and by the higher ed, by the Chronicle of Higher Education. It is administered by a company called Modern Think Incorporated, and you can do a very small but statistically significant sample for free. They will allow you to do that. We actually chose, though, to oversample, which in their lexicon means we chose to have everybody, because we wanted every person to have an opportunity to engage in it, not just 600 or so, which would have been their sample based on our census. So some important things, just to give you, and it's not going to be a deep dive today because we don't have time, but it really will. We'll be doing this for University Senate. We're going to be meeting with the EAC, going to be talking throughout a lot more. We were pleased that with that relatively quick ramp up, there was a 39% response rate. You might think, well, that's not really very good, but it actually compares quite well to other research universities and particularly to our peers that participated in it. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in just a minute. You have the opportunity then from the analysis that Modern Think does to use comparisons, and this is an important thing that really was a criticism of a previous instrument we used, which was from Press Ganey, and it's a wonderfully robust and well benchmarked set of survey questions, but it's not against truly higher ed type institutions. It's more business, it's more hospital systems, it's more academic health center kind of things. And so that was one of the sort of the rubs with using that again, and that's why we wanted to go to this one. So we have benchmark for comparison groups. Honor roll universities are published in the Chronicle of Higher Ed. Many of you have already seen those roll out. We weren't one of those, but we can aspire still to be one. I think actually Clayton State may have been named as one of at least quite high in that, and probably was the only USG institution, so good for them. Carnegie Research Universities, we can parse out so we can compare ourselves to that. And then because we have recently gone through a USG process where we have selected and they have approved 15 peer universities, peer institutions for us for various comparisons along the way. We were able to ask Modern Think, well, how many of those specifically participated in this survey, because it's voluntary, and then how can we compare to that cohort? And there are actually 6 of that 15 that did take the survey, and so we now can look at kind of where we are compared to them on the various measures. There are 15 thematic areas. There were 60 questions. Many of you remember this. 60 questions on 5-point Likert scale questions, and then 2 open-ended questions. We had over 2,000 responses to the open-ended questions, and so that was a great response as well. The 60 questions are then grouped into, by Modern Think, into thematic areas. So again, I'll give you lots more data on that as we roll out the results more robustly. But thematic areas of strength, you can see there some of the things that are great to hear that there were positive. So these were the top in terms of the positive agreeing or strongly agreeing strengths. And then the ones who weren't as, they did not garner as much strong agreement are seen as opportunities, and some of these sound really familiar. Collaboration, policies, resource and efficiencies, shared governance, senior leadership, communication, faculty, administrative, and staff relations. So we have opportunities to improve. I'm not sure, I am pretty sure that I will be long gone, if not dead and gone, hopefully not that, before we see things like communication ever not be an issue. That doesn't mean we don't want to figure out how to do it better. We've got to do that so that we can start to move that needle. But it is very hard, as you all know, for us all to get to communicate to the extent that we want. And so help us work on that throughout this year as well as the others. Let's see, what else did I want to say about this? Next steps, we have already actually engaged, engaged, as I said, the Employee Advisory Committee as well as the University Senate. They're going to be, their leaders and the folks in there are going to be very involved in work groups that will take these results in the granular form and begin to actually identify and initiate actions. They're not going to be doing it in a vacuum either. It's going to be all of us, because truly we each at the unit level as well as the institution must do that. And then we'll monitor and evaluate. There's no reason to do these surveys if we're not going to do something with them and then close the loop on the results. The other thing that I meant to tell you, that was what I was thinking about in terms of the things like communication, like all of these strengths and opportunities. The really interesting thing is when you track, and we can provide that spreadsheet again once all the details of it are fleshed out. But when you provide the 6 peer institutions and their percent of strongly agree and not compared to ours, they are virtually identical. So those 6 peers, and we didn't pick them for this, obviously, but those 6 peers had the same kind of strengths identified, almost to the percentage point, and the same kind of opportunities. I don't know what that means. I don't think it's misery loves company. Doesn't mean we're going to say, oh, well, we're just like everybody else and not do anything. But it does give us some insight into some of the challenges that are throughout our sort of higher ed establishments. Spend just the last few minutes on updating you on the strategic plan. Most all of you have been involved in the strategic planning process. If not, you must be brand new, because certainly you had an opportunity otherwise, because we've been doing this in a really robust way. I've been so pleased with all the engagement activities and the way that folks have engaged to create this next 4-year strategic plan. It will have some other kind of snazzy tagline, but we haven't gotten there yet. We are. So you'll recall that there were 3 phases that began really 2 semesters ago, if we don't count the summer, which there was a lot of work going on in the summer, but it was sort of a behind-the-scenes sort of thing in that regard. So fall 16 was the preparation phase. The engagements mostly took place in the spring of 2017. Then the summer, we gathered lots and did some great work by the folks like Mickey Williford, Jennifer Smith, and the groups in their respective units that really made it possible to be as far along as we are now. And so we're in the finalization phase. You see below just some numbers that really do indicate the kind of involvement and engagement that we were able to garner with respect to all the things. There were focus area groups that had team members broadly representing the institution. We had town halls. Some of you might remember Leanne Liska, my co-sponsor, and I standing here before you and talking through some of the things and getting you to vote with clickers that pretty much worked on some of the things to get an idea of what you thought were important issues. We did have close to 4,000 survey respondents in 2 different survey administrations that we did, and about 200 pop-up engagements, which meant, kind of showing up in a hallway during lunch hour or that kind of thing and having people register some things that they might want to with respect to the plan. Won't go through all this, but you'll just recall that there really are 4 big pillars, which wouldn't be hard to come up with given the institution that we are: education, research, clinical, and then also outreach and economic development. And these are really do form the basis of the strategic priorities. When you read the plan, and we've got Carla Leeper and some other great folks now really working on the narrative of that plan, and they're going to be doing great work to describe us and our distinctiveness, because many of the goals don't really sound too different from what you would expect of institutions like ours. They are pretty much some of the basic blocking and tackling, so to speak, that we must do, but we must do it better or faster or in a slightly different way. But what you'll see, though, is now we're in a phase, and when we get into distributing that more, we're in a phase now with many groups that have already been touched in this room as well, with talking about, okay, given those goals, what does success look like? What are we going to measure? Not what the measure will be. We're not at that stage yet. We're not done. But what should we be measuring, looking at qualitatively or quantitatively in order to say we're hitting that mark, we're achieving what we intended. And so from those success measures has come this just plethora of all kinds of things. And most of these are things that we should and will be measuring anyway. We're going to see and out of this group, some will rise to the top. And these aren't necessarily the ones, this is just the graphic, but we're going to have some that are specifically focused for specific goals to say, this is what we're going to track, not the only thing, this is what we're going to track against this particular goal to say, are we doing what we aspired to? So all of that will be coming up in just the next few months, weeks and throughout this semester. Goodness, not years. We've only got 4 years to do the whole plan. So we've been doing lots of things together, you all with enormous energy, with all the great work and the creativity that you bring every day. We're doing wonderful work here. And it is, as the president said, it is garnering attention. It is noticed by external entities. And that comes in the form of new partnerships that we've never had opportunities before. It's new joint programs. It's support in ways that we've not had before. And so we are seeing a lot of visible external commitments to Augusta University. And I want to thank each of you for all that you do in terms of being that ambassador, because that is key, as well as all of the leadership that really goes out and makes sure that we're telling our story. And the president is our biggest ambassador and cheerleader for that matter for that. And so it's through his aegis as well as so many others that we are really starting to gain traction. This is a great picture, actually, to start this section, simply because it does represent a little bit earlier, but still very recent recognition of what we are, and that was the wonderful gift that Dr. Harrison made, which not only was pivotal in being able to create this building, but also created scholarships, created professorships, really was a game changer for the Medical College of Georgia. We need so many more of Dr. Harrison in that regard. So in terms of the more visible things that we are seeing as that commitment, just some of the things to rack and stack a little bit in terms of new facilities and infrastructure. You can see there some of the number of university projects that have either been completed or ongoing now, the kind of investments that are being made. Hundreds of thousands of square feet, and sometimes you may feel like you run into every one of them and something else is happening and you can't go exactly where you want to be. but as well, you can see the kinds of projects that are going on here. So we really are on the move, and it can be inconvenient and it can be annoying, but honestly, I don't think we'd want to be at an institution where you weren't inconvenienced by some new stuff happening, construction and other things, because as much as we might not like, having to detour around because we can't get through Laney Walker and some of the other things that go on, this shows that we are on the move, that we actually are able to do some of the great things that the state and others have vested in us. So just to mention quickly, last year we were saying that, and barely, the paint was not even quite dry sometimes at this time of year last year in the rooms of the new residence halls. That's been a great success. Many of you were involved, and thank you for that, with moving in the freshmen on Saturday, this past Saturday. It was a great event. There were 397 close anyway, that were moved into that, so at absolutely full capacity in Oak Hall, which is great, and truly this has another one of those things that's been a game changer for the university. It was a wonderful, wonderful event, and we'll continue to grow that, and now that we're at, hanging from the rafters, we're going to have to start on that next building, this mirror image right across the way. Mention the Cancer Center building construction. It is on track and proceeding well, so it won't be too many months before, in fact, we can drive through Laney Walker again, as well as enjoy the beautiful facilities that come off. And recall that truly is so important, because it will actually, that connector that's blocking the street right now, that will be the over connector, is actually going to bridge the bench scientists with the clinicians, because the Clinical Cancer Center is just across that street. So really will be a great configuration. We have wonderful projects going on, and I'm told that they're happening pretty quickly and on track to renovate the ceramics lab. That's also twinned in that same facility, which is one of the warehouses, the chemistry and physics lab, and that I think will be a much improved facility for both of those. It was the right thing to do. It was also even a health thing to do, from the ceramics lab and the dust and those kinds of things. And so that will be an important addition for both of our students and our faculty in those areas. You've seen, I think, those of you who don't go over maybe too often, that the Christenberry Fieldhouse entrance now has this really, really gorgeous, I think, sign, which is wonderful. You can see it tomorrow because, as Dr. Keel alluded to, we are having our freshman convocation, and the good news is we've outgrown this facility with respect to those students, and so we did have to move to Christenberry. So it'll be a new experience in that new venue, but what a great one to be at that point. You see these signs. This one happened to be going up on the annex some months ago, but you see these signs kind of popping up all over, and it's going to be a great thing to see when it really, this is on one of the city's icon buildings, the former Wells Fargo building. Many of you will have read that we have leased space in there for our clinical enterprise, not for clinical services, not patient seeing, but some of the back office functions there. But as part of that, we will be allowed actually to go on with the AU icon. So that will be a great thing to see from both sides of the river. Already mentioned the Hull McKnight, Georgia's Hybrid Innovation and Training Center. What a great thing that's going to be. And then, of course, this is conceptual at this point, but the $49.4 million is in the USG's budget at this point to be proposed to the state for the second bite at that. The planning dollars already having been in this fiscal year, and now for the second. So we are looking forward to all that can bring. The project management firm has already been selected. It's Gleeds, and many of you know that they have been very instrumental in the highly successful recent projects, some of those that we have now. And so they know us, they know what we're about, we know them. So I think that was a very good choice that the Board of Regents approved. So we got lots of forward momentum. If nothing else, I hope that you come away feeling like we are all on the move and we can do great things together. It takes not just each of us, it takes all of the community, and the community is a really broad category. It's not just the CSRA, it really is, as we've mentioned, beyond that to a large, large extent. So the other side, that flip side, has dates to remember. There's so much to get involved with. There's so many things to do here. I especially like this picture because it's not a half marathon we're on. It actually is probably a serial marathon. It's like more than one marathon. But I encourage all of you to get in, to run with it. Don't be that guy over there on the side just watching things happen, even though I have to admit I was that guy at this particular half marathon because I was just on the side watching all those runners. But please, get involved, get together, both with your colleagues. You do such a wonderful job with all the students. We are in this together and we can make this happen. So thank you for your attention today. Thank you for what you bring every day. And go Jags.